It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The sun was shining over Makeni, Lusaka, and I had just married the man I loved with all my heart. I was full of hope, ready to start a new chapter with Lebo. But the moment I stepped into his family home, that joy began to crack. His mother, Mama Cowther, looked me up and down like I was dirt on her shoes. She didn't smile, didn't hug me, didn't even say congratulations. Instead, her very first words to me were, "You're not good enough for my son." I froze. I thought maybe I had heard wrong. Maybe she was just nervous or emotional. But no, she meant every word. The way she said it, so calm, so certain, like it was a fact. I looked at Lebo, hoping he would say something, defend me, defend us. But he just stayed quiet, awkwardly shifting his eyes, like he was used to her saying things like that. I had always dreamed of having a warm, welcoming mother-in-law. Someone who would guide me, support me, maybe even love me like a daughter. But instead, I got a woman who looked at me like a mistake her son had made. I smiled politely, trying to win her over, thinking maybe time would help. I didn't know then that this was just the beginning of a very long storm. A storm I would have to survive with nothing but my pride, my pain, and eventually my power. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining things. Maybe Mama Cowther just had her own way of doing things. But slowly, day by day, she started turning our home into a place I no longer recognized. Place that didn't feel like mine. Every time I cooked, she would wait until I left the kitchen, then throw the food away and make something else. She never said a word about it, never confronted me. Just quiet actions that screamed, "You don't belong here." If I bought new clothes, she'd accidentally mix them into the pile of donations she gave away. Even small things like rearranging the furniture or hiding my favorite mug became part of her silent attacks. I tried to speak to Lebo about it. I begged him to talk to her, to notice how much it was hurting me. But he always gave the same answer. "Just be patient. She'll come around." As if I hadn't already been trying. As if I hadn't swallowed every insult, every cold glance, every quiet act of cruelty. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, turning my face to the wall so no one would hear. I felt like a stranger in my own home, like I was always walking on eggshells. I started questioning myself. Maybe I really wasn't good enough. Maybe love wasn't enough. But somewhere deep inside, something stronger was beginning to grow. A voice, still small but getting louder, that whispered, "You don't deserve this. You are not invisible. You are not weak." I didn't know it yet, but that quiet war she was waging would be the fire that pushed me to find my power. Even if it meant losing everything to finally find peace. I still remember that day like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I had just come back from the market, tired but happy. I had bought fresh vegetables and meat to cook Lebo's favorite stew. I opened the door, humming to myself, but the moment I stepped inside, the air changed. There she was, a woman I had never seen before. She was sitting comfortably at my table, sipping tea from my cup and wearing my apron, the one Lebo bought me when we first moved in. She smiled at me like she owned the place. My heart dropped. Before I could even ask who she was, Mama Cowther appeared behind her, arms folded, a smug look on her face. With no emotion, she said, "Zanele, meet Thandile. She's what a real wife looks like." I couldn't breathe. I looked at Lebo, who was standing in the corner like a ghost. He didn't speak. He didn't look at me. He just stood there, silent again. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. But all I could do was stand still, frozen in shock. This wasn't just another insult. This was war. And this time, she didn't hide it behind fake smiles or quiet cruelty. This time, she brought it right into my home and served it at my table. I felt so small, so betrayed. After everything I had endured, after all the silence, all the patience, this was the thanks I got? A replacement, handpicked by the woman who never saw me as enough? I went into the bedroom and locked the door. I didn't want them to see me break. I didn't want Mama Cowther to see the tears. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, asking myself the same question over and over. Why am I still here? And though I didn't have the answer then, something in me was starting to wake up. A quiet rage, a seed of strength. They thought they could break me. But they were wrong. It was a normal afternoon, or at least it started that way. I had just finished cleaning the house, trying to keep my mind busy, pretending everything was okay even though it wasn't. I heard footsteps behind me and turned around. Thandai was standing there holding a suitcase. My suitcase. She placed it by the door, looked me in the eye and said, "It's time for you to go." Behind her, Mama Cowther stood with her arms crossed, wearing that same cold, satisfied smile I had come to know too well. I looked at the suitcase. It was packed with my clothes, my things. Someone had gone through my drawers, my wardrobe, my private space. Someone had decided for me that I no longer belonged. I turned to Lebo, standing by the doorway like a statue. My heart was pounding. I wanted him to say something, anything. I wanted him to stop this madness, to stand beside me just once. But he didn't. He didn't even look at me. He kept his eyes on the floor, like he was too ashamed to face what was happening. Or maybe he just didn't care. I felt a tightness in my chest, but I refused to let them see me cry. I picked up that suitcase slowly, every movement heavy with pain. My hands were shaking, but my head was held high. I walked past Mama Cowther, past Thandai, past the man who once promised to protect me. Not a single goodbye. Not even a whisper. I walked out with nothing. No money, no plan, no place to stay. But I walked out with my pride. And in that moment, that was enough. They had taken my home, my comfort, even my marriage. But they couldn't take me. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. I had lost everything I thought I needed. But I was about to find something far more powerful, myself. That first night, I slept on a couch that wasn't mine, in a house that wasn't home. A kind friend Ndola had taken me in, and I will never forget her kindness. But no pillow could soften the pain in my chest. I felt broken. Thrown away. I had given everything to a man who let his silence ruin me, and to a family that never wanted me. And now I had nothing. I cried almost every night, quietly, holding the blanket over my face so no one could hear. I missed my life, even the parts that hurt. I missed being someone's wife. I missed believing in love. The pain was deep, not just in my heart but in my bones. I felt empty, invisible, lost. Then one morning I woke up feeling strange, dizzy, tired, not myself. I thought it was stress, maybe depression. But something inside me whispered something else. I went to a small clinic, holding my breath the whole time. And then came the words, "You're pregnant." My heart stopped. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was alone, homeless, jobless. And now I was going to be a mother. For a moment, fear took over. How could I do this? How would I raise a child when I couldn't even take care of myself? But then something shifted. I put my hand on my belly. I thought of the nights I had begged for a reason to keep going. And now I had one. This baby, this little heartbeat growing inside me was mine. My reason. My light in the darkest month of my life. I was still scared. Still unsure. But something stronger was growing inside me. Not just a child, but a fierce kind of strength I didn't know I had. I had lost a husband, a home, and the life I thought I needed. But I had gained something far more powerful. A new beginning. One that started with 2 heartbeats and a quiet promise. We will make it. I had no plan, no money, and no family to fall back on. Just a growing belly and the quiet voice inside me saying, "Keep going." I knew I had to find a job, any job. So when I heard that a local women's NGO in Ndola needed a cleaner, I swallowed my pride and applied. It wasn't easy. Every morning I woke up early, cleaned toilets, mopped floors, washed windows, all while hiding the pain I still carried. Some days my back ached and my feet were swollen, but I kept working. Because I wasn't just cleaning floors, I was building something. Quietly, slowly, I was rebuilding me. The women at the NGO were different. They saw me, not just as a cleaner but as a woman trying to survive. One day, I was wiping down tables in the meeting room when I overheard a conversation about gender rights and community outreach. Something inside me lit up. I remembered how helpless I had felt in that house. How voiceless. And I thought no woman should ever feel like that. One of the staff members, Auntie Miriam, noticed my interest. She invited me to sit in on one of the workshops during my lunch break. I listened. I learned. And then one day I shared my story. I was nervous, shaking, but I spoke from the heart. I told them everything. The rejection, the silent war, the replacement, the night I was told to leave, and the baby now growing inside me. The room was silent. Then one by one the women began to cry. They didn't pity me, they respected me. They saw a woman who refused to give up. A few weeks later, the director of the NGO called me into her office. I thought maybe I had done something wrong. But instead she smiled and said, "We believe in you, Zanele. And we want to offer you a scholarship to study community advocacy." I couldn't speak. Tears rolled down my cheeks. For the first time in a long time, someone had chosen me, not to break me, not to use me, but to lift me. From scrubbing floors to standing up for women like me. My journey was just beginning. I never wished them harm, even after everything they did to me. The insults, the silence, the betrayal, I only wanted peace. I had moved on, or at least I was trying to. But life has a way of settling its own scores. One afternoon, while I was helping set up a workshop at the NGO, a friend from Lusaka called me. Her voice was low, almost whispering, like she was sharing a secret. "Have you heard what happened at Lebo's house?" she asked. I hadn't. I wasn't even thinking about that house anymore. But her next words stopped me cold. Thandai was gone. She ran off with all the money. First, I didn't believe it. The same woman Mama Cowther called a real wife. The same one who replaced me, wore my apron, sat at my table like she owned it. She had emptied their bank accounts, taken valuable items, and disappeared without a word. Rumor had it she had been cheating on Lebo for months. And Mama Cowther? The proud woman who once looked down on me like I was dirt, she collapsed in shame. Neighbors said she stayed locked in her room, refusing to eat or speak. She couldn't face the embarrassment, the gossip, the truth. As for Lebo, he finally felt what it was like to be left behind. I didn't laugh. I didn't cheer. But I won't lie, a part of me felt something. Not joy, but justice. Life had shown them exactly what they needed to see. And I didn't have to lift a finger. I stood from afar holding my baby boy, watching my world bloom while theirs burned. I had found a job, a mission, a family in the women I worked with. I had grown stronger, freer, wiser. And while their house was crumbling, mine was just being built, brick by brick, from pain, purpose, and pride. Sometimes karma doesn't come loud. Sometimes it arrives dressed in silence and fire. And this time it burned exactly where it needed to. It had been almost 2 years since I walked out of that house with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. Life had changed so much. I was now living in Kitwe, running a women's legal center. Something I never imagined back when I was scrubbing floors and crying myself to sleep. I had found my voice, my purpose, and above all, I had found peace. One sunny afternoon, I was at the center preparing for a workshop when I saw him, Lebo, standing by the gate, older, thinner, and with a face full of regret. For a moment I just stared. It felt like seeing a ghost from a past I had buried. Then he said softly, "Zanele, please, can we talk?" I stepped outside. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "I made a mistake," he said. "I should have stood by you. I should have never let you go." His voice shook, and for the first time ever, I saw tears in his eyes. "Please, Zanele, give me another chance. I want my family back." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. I just turned and looked at the little boy playing behind me, our son. He was laughing, full of joy, full of life. I smiled, picked him up, and said gently, "We already have everything we need." Lebo didn't argue. He just stood there silent. The same way he had stood when they told me to leave. But this time I was the one walking away. Not in pain, not in shame, but in power. That moment was everything. Not because I rejected him, but because I finally saw who I had become. I wasn't the woman begging to be loved anymore. I was the woman building something real, for myself, for my son, and for every other woman who had ever been told she wasn't enough. And standing there with my child in my arms and my future in my hands, I knew the truth. I didn't need him to come back. I had already come home to myself. There was a time I thought I had no one. When I was thrown out of my marriage, when my own mother-in-law turned me away, and when I cried on that couch in Dola, I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. But life has a way of giving back in the most unexpected ways. The women at the NGO who first gave me a job, they became more than co-workers. They became sisters, aunties, mentors. They held my hand when I was scared, encouraged me when I doubted myself, and cheered me on when I stood tall. They didn't just support me, they chose me. And in doing so, they gave me something I thought I had lost forever. A family. As I grew in my work, I started dreaming bigger. I knew I didn't just want to help women. I wanted to build real change. So with support from the NGO, I launched a program to build safe homes for women escaping abuse. We called it Second Chance Homes. I wanted every woman who had been hurt, silenced, or thrown away to have a place where she could heal, just like I had. Then came the scholarship program. I remembered how it felt to have doors closed in my face, how it felt to be told I wasn't enough. So I opened doors for girls who had no one, girls who dreamed of becoming lawyers, nurses, teachers, girls who reminded me of who I once was. And then one day I received an invitation I never expected. The governor of Copperbelt province was honoring women in social impact. My name was on that list. I stood on that stage with tears in my eyes, holding the award close to my heart, thinking of every painful step that led me there. I wasn't just a woman who had survived. I was a woman who had risen. I looked out into the crowd and saw the women who had lifted me, my little son in the front row clapping proudly. And in that moment I realized I didn't lose a family. I had created one. Not with blood but with love, purpose, and truth. And that kind of family, it never walks away. The lights were bright, the cameras flashing, and my heart was beating louder than ever. I stood on stage in a long blue dress, holding the award for Social Impact Woman of the Year. As I looked out at the cheering crowd, I felt a wave of emotion rush through me. This moment was more than an award. It was a full circle. Somewhere watching from her living room was Mama Cowther. Yes, the same woman who once looked me in the eye and said, "You're not good enough for my son." The same woman who let another woman wear my apron, sit at my table, and throw me out of my own home. She had replaced me without a blink. But life had other plans. Now I wasn't just a woman who had been thrown away. I had become a voice for thousands. I had built homes, given scholarships, stood up for women who had no one to fight for them. And this stage I stood on, it wasn't just mine. It belonged to every woman who was ever told she wasn't enough. As I spoke into the microphone, I didn't mention her name. I didn't need to. My presence said it all. I had replaced her hatred with something far more powerful: legacy. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her apology. I had something better: my son's proud eyes, a nation's respect, and a heart finally at peace. She once saw me as a mistake. But now the country saw me as their daughter. And that was the sweetest ending of all.